Bakote dump site in their neighborhood. Would you like it in West Coast region, in Jabang, in Birkama? Nobody wants it. So the right thing for government to do is to come up with a strategy to ensure that when we do close Bakote, we come up with what we call an engineered landfill. So the dump site, if it's to maintain or remain, should be changed from a dump site to what they call a transfer station. I know you're the health minister and you probably know some environmental studies. Transfer stations are locations where waste is taken to, sorted, recycled, and what cannot be reused is transferred near landfill, buried correctly. Buried correctly in the sense, when they dig a hole, they create a membrane. The membrane in some countries they create it with clay, in other countries they create it with a film. The reason being, over time, as that waste decomposes, the leachage doesn't go down and poison the water table. So with Bakote dump site, what we are facing is a risk of the water table for up to 5 kilometers radius being poisoned. This is water you're drinking from your wells. This is water you are showering in. And who knows, many deaths are happening in Gambia and the autopsy report is not concluded or conclusive. It may be as a result of chemicals being thrown into the water table by the Bakote dump site. So we have engaged government, we have engaged the West Coast region. We created a task force. This task force, Banjul City Council was there, KMC was there, BAC, and Ministry of Environment, and of course, Ministry of Lands and Local Government. We identified 3 sites. This was in 2019. And the site they eventually chose as the appropriate site to transfer the Bakote dump site or to create an engineered landfill was Faraba. But we all know the history in Faraba with Gambia government. So when the community was engaged, they rejected it. And for this reason, we as a local council don't have the power to transfer the Bakote dump site. As you know, KMC is also the most urbanized municipality. It is the most built-up municipality. There is no remote lands. So this is solely the responsibility of the Ministry of Lands and Local Government. But for the past 5 years, we've been advocating that they must take this step. Because the Bakote dump site, as we speak, is having a lot of flooding problems now during the rainy season because it's full to capacity. In the dry season, it is burning. It is disturbing the health of the entire community of Bakote, Manjai, and Dipakunda. So we need it moved. It is overdue. It is long overdue. But this is now at the table of the Ministry of Lands of Local Government. What we can do as a council is to mitigate the risk. So as you have seen in the past 5 years, we have used taxpayers' funds and created a 1.8 kilometer fence to keep the hazards within. We have also, with the German government and the SOS, secured a grant of up to $42 million to build infrastructure in there. If you go there today, you will see that we have built concrete roads. We are building a recycling hangar. We are bringing a shredding machine. We are building a water filtration system to keep fires off. So we are doing as much as we can as council, but it's time for government to step in. Thank you.
I have so many questions for you. And I believe today is my great day to face you. But I will give you 2 questions. Yes. Yeah. We have Mbalit project. And that Mbalit project is the most talked about in this municipality. Here in KMC, we are paying tax. We are paying house rent. But this Mbalit project, the KMC is collecting money. And my question is, what are those money is used for? And the second question is, since ministerial post is a political appointment, and you are in a different political party with the ruling government, what is your relationship with the Minister of Local Government and Lands? Since you've made mention that the council is not responsible to allocate lands for the dump site, what is your relationship with the local Minister of Local Government and Lands, since you are in a different political party?
Sorry, the name was? Amadou. Thank you, Amadou. I think that's a very important question. If I may just say, the Mbalit project is the most talked about project in the municipality because it's the greatest project this municipality has ever embarked on. As you have seen with the latest CEPRAS survey, 4% of Birkama Area Council residents say their waste is being collected by the council. Imagine 4%. In KMC is above 70%. And before we came into council, it was less than 1%. When you go to BCC, a much smaller area, but of course they've done well, is 99%. But for me, I think KMC has done better because, one, most of our road infrastructure is not built, unlike Banjul. Two, Banjul is 5% of our population. So if we can collect 75% of over 500,000 people's waste on a daily basis, 85,000 households, 35,000 compounds, 15,000 businesses, I think this is why the Mbalit project is the most talked about project. Now, your question was, why are we asking people to pay upfront? Now, when we were coming up with this project, remember, we came from a position of weakness, a position of desperation, because we did not find anything on the ground. There was literally 2 tractors, open tractors, that we found on the ground. Now, of course, that cannot collect any waste in this municipality. And aside from the households, we also have 19 markets. So we had to come up with something bold, something unprecedented that could solve this problem once and for all. And we had to be bright and brilliant because we did not have the resources, nor did we have the credibility. Nobody trusted KMC at that point to work with us. So we had to come up with the Mbalit project. And this was a project that we advertised to the general public via what we call an expression of interest. Now, based on this expression of interest, businesses can come and say, okay, I have a solution. I think I can solve the waste problem. Based on the people who approached us, we realized that, okay, we may be able to find partners. Then let's go to tender. And the rules of procurement of the Gambia, via the GPPA Act, is you must advertise an RFP. So we advertised a request for proposal. We received 2 bids, one from TK Motors and one from Espas Motors. The TK Motors bid, though, did not have a pre-financing arrangement. And we don't have money. We found a $9 million overdraft when we came to KMC in 2018. So naturally, we had to go with somebody who could pre-finance, leaving Espas alone. So Espas went into negotiations with our contracts committee. I'm sorry for taking a long route, but I just want you guys to appreciate the context of the Mbalit project. So based on that pre-financing arrangement and that negotiation, we entered into contract for the procurement of 24 trucks. Every ward is allocated 1, plus 4 trucks that would do general service for public areas and public institutions. So this is how it started. Now, how do we pay for this project? Where 80% of KMC residents are non-compliant when it comes to their property rates. Many people will tell you they pay their rates. I dare you to ask them for their receipt. They cannot produce it. We are only able to collect about 20% of people's property rates. And the reason being is what is wrong with Gambia in general. 40 years ago, 50 years ago, addresses were not instituted. Urban planning was not conducted very well. So if you do not know where somebody lives, who owns a certain property, it will be very difficult to collect taxes effectively from that person. And this is the same problem utilities companies are facing. This is the same problem telecoms is facing. This is the same problem most businesses are facing. Remember, when you were younger, probably not you, because you are very young, but in the 80s, Gambia had billing system. People who are in their 40s now will remember that the Gamtel used to give you bills. NAWEC used to give you electricity bills. How come today everybody is paying prepaid? It's because there's no addressing system. You cannot trace bill payers. I remember about 10 to 15 years ago, NAWEC had areas, Gamtel had areas of up to $2 billion in unpaid bills. So this is why utilities now, for example, cash power, you have to pay to get service. Same as with your telephone. You have to buy credit to be able to make calls. It is because something is fundamentally wrong with how we are developing the Gambia. We are building a Gambia with no foundation. So when we came to say, how can we effectively pay for this Mbalit project, we realized the revenue was not there. Council was making, at that time in 2018, $117 million a year with a 9 million overdraft, meaning our bills and our expenses and our revenue was on par, and there was a budget deficit. So we had to come with a novel idea of how do we charge upfront for the waste. And remember, this is just a token. We're charging people $10 on collection. Effectively, that accumulates to $15 million a year for the entire municipality. But to keep the Mbalit project up and running cost the council up to $20 million a year. So we are effectively actually making a deficit when it comes to those charges. Who pays for the difference, 5 million, is the taxes. And who is actually paying for the purchase of the truck is the taxes. So the reason we are charging that token, one, is to control the limit of waste a person can put in the truck. Because we have to control that for the project to work. If people are putting any amount of waste, unlimited amounts of waste, it would not be fair, meaning you would miss certain compounds because one person has put too much waste. So that's why we charge, for one reason. The other reason is also sustainability. The former council once had 20 tractors, which is actually not the right equipment for waste collection. Tractors are for farming. Because for one, when you use a tractor, as it goes, it will drop waste on the highway. For two, it has a very limited capacity. Three, it stenches the entire environment when it passes. So that's the wrong equipment. But remember, the council once had tractors. How come when we came into office, they were not there? Sustainability. We do not want a time where we leave office, another person comes and has to start from scratch. That is not progress. That is regressing. And these cost a lot of money. So because we have a replenishment plan, and until such a time, everybody is paying their taxes, we had to do this service, pay for service upfront. Secondly, you asked about our relationship with the Minister of Local Government. I have no problem with the Minister of Local Government. Once we were close buddies, maybe not so much anymore. But government is not personal. This is a public institution. These are offices that are owned by the public. We are occupants who are servants at a short period in time. So I don't see our relationship as an impediment to cooperation or for the reason of serving Gambians' supreme interests. However, there is a challenge, of course, between local governments and central governments. And I think this challenge is not partisan completely. It is a bit complicated because, of course, I am an opposition party, but it is a power struggle, we call it. Because remember, in the time of a mayor called Lai Conte, he was the same party with the president of the day, and they were fighting on a daily basis. So this is Gambia's democratic system maturing. In our constitution, it recognizes pluralism. What that is Gambia's governance system recognizes many authorities and decentralization and devolution of power. However, in practice, government still wants to monopolize power and control. And this is the struggle that councils encounter on a daily basis. I think it is just Gambian institutions or Gambia government maturing and understanding that they cannot do the heavy lifting alone. They need councils to also develop their communities as they develop the macro issues. I hope that answers.
Lord Mayor, the question that I have for you is that a rumor has been going that the Malik project is a scam. I want you to make it clear for me, please.
Very direct. How can I answer this politely? I think so. When you say rumors, I don't know how to respond to rumors. If you have a rumor, you have to back it with evidence. And I think yesterday I was on radio, on Faraya Radio, had the same question. I said, well, I think I should ask you. You are a journalist. Your fundamental role is to investigate and prove rumors and hearsay and come and report. KMC is a public institution. All the documents are public. All our processes are public. And people do not know that mayors are not signatories to any account. Mayors do not have access to money. The chairperson of the contracts committee of every council, by law, is the chief executive officer. So we do not have a role in the procurement of services or equipment for councils. However, when you say, I hear a rumor that it is a scam, these are very loose things. But I'll tie it back to the other question. I think it was from Babuka. I think from Amadou. I think what happens in Gambia sometimes is that people fight progress instinctively and they don't even know why. I mean, you were living in a time where you had no waste collection service. Now you have trucks going on a daily basis to your doorstep. And all of a sudden, it's a problem for some people to accept. And because it's a problem now, that they feel that this should not exist or this certain person should not be this progress, now I have to create rumors to minimize this progress. But what is they're demoralizing others who might have similar ideas. They're demotivating others who might want to bring landmark changes, who might want to have impact. And I think it's very negative. The rightful thing to do. Fair play dictates that you must also back it with evidence. I think I'll rest my case there.
I am a student of, I'm a year one student of GPTI. I'm studying electronics, but I'm struggling with payment to pay the bill, the school bill. So I want to ask the mayor if mayor is also giving scholarship to Gambians. If yes, what about persons with disabilities or deaf people? I think we also need to have things. Because the reason why I came up with this decision to study electronics is to make ends meet. Thank you very much.
Alaji Sise. And of course, I want to commend you and congratulate you for proving that you're not able, but differently able. You have talents and skills. And of course, going to learn to be an electrician, I'm happy about that. I'm very I want to say that KMC, I think, has done unprecedented things when it comes to people of differently able. I think we're the first council, I dare say maybe the first government institution that has from the different to come and sit in an elected body to represent. I don't think that, and I think it's been a positive change where we see we do have a standing committee on education. Councillor representative here present. We also have the name of Momodu Bahum, who was formerly the director at the Gambia Federation of Disabled. All matters as your constituents are concerned do go through them. What I would say is budgets about, I believe, up to 1 million initiatives, and we do have, I believe, up
the subsections of 3, 4 talks about the education, as you rightly mentioned here, as the standing committees. It is clearly separated there that the Lord Mayor, together with his committee members, are responsible for managing all the affairs or monitoring all the educational systems within its jurisdictions. So now here I am saying the college, which is one of the oldest tertiary institutions of this country, its development is at stake. And you also made mention here that you have been making some visits to the college. I want to know whether you have been making some consultations with its previous GCSU members who were there, that is the Students Representative Union, which were there. Because looking at the Gambia College, one, we lack what we call waste management. Our management of waste is lacking in both the schools, because we have a school of education, we have school of public health, we have school of RN, that is immediately at Banjul, we have school of agriculture. Some of these three schools are all stationed in Big.
Thank you. I'm sure when it gives birth, you can ask again.
Absolutely.
Basically, I think your question is in line. Councils are responsible for a vast areas. Just like in other countries, every issue in a municipality or in a region, a council is responsible to provide services, is responsible to provide solutions. However, in Gambia, we don't have a fully decentralized system. Part of decentralization is government must devolve power to councils to allow them to provide these services. As you know well, the education sector is completely monopolized by the Ministry of Education. And of course, there's the basic education and there's the higher education. I think that is responsible for universities. So I think one of the things that the decentralization policy was trying to promote was that government should empower councils, resource councils, make sure councils are capacitized to take care of some of these local issues, such as schooling. Now, how we work around it, like I said, we have an education committee. We cannot completely solve the issues of universities or interfere in their management and the running of these universities. However, we do provide support services. So for example, if your student union or student body or association was to go to a field trip to Dakar, we do sometimes support in the logistics, sometimes support monetarily. It might not be enough, but it is what the council is able to do. Now, in the sense that you would like council to support as far as waste management is concerned, I believe we do. If we don't, that would be a surprise. However, I was at the the MDI over, I think 2 weeks ago, and I spoke to some of the students about how they manage the waste within the school. They found it necessary to conduct a set-settle within the campus. And I thought that was quite surprising, given that these are students who are supposed to be progressives, who are supposed to be the leaders of tomorrow. You should not really be having littering at the campus level. So they had an issue where students were littering all over the place, and they had to conduct a set-settle to clean it up. So I think the relationship you have with waste is quite critical to the future of Gambia, because you're the future leaders. You're the ones to come up with environmental policies. You're the ones to become the Minister of Environment, etc. So I think that needs to be looked at. As far as how we support the campuses within the municipality, I believe MDI, a couple of years ago, we gave them a few hundred bins to help them with their waste management. And I think to date, we do collect their waste. Maybe because you come from Birkama, that's why you have different issues. But for KMC, I think we are ahead, like as far as the survey is concerned. Because even myself, I am suffering from inflation. The defense at the house is increasing every month. But I think this is the responsibility of government. Regulation of prices in a market is government's responsibility. That is not something we can do. I think it's GCC, Gambia Competitive Commission. I think that's the agency that deals with price regulation. And I think it's something that government should intervene in because, of course, we are a country that has a lot of self-employed people and with very low incomes. And one way to protect them, of course, is to provide price ceilings on basics, either through subsidies or etc. I believe In fuel, government says they are providing subsidies, but I think it should be widespread because many people, of course, are suffering and they, of course, rely on remittances for their day-to-day. Unfortunately, as far as the laws of the Gambia are concerned, councils do not have power to interfere in prices of basic commodities. Facilities are concerned, it's the same answer with the education. Health is monopolized by the Ministry of Health. However, we do support. I think 3 months back, the council donated 9 ambulances to about 9 community clinics. So I think this is unprecedented, and we will continue to provide as much support as possible. Just this morning, we gave a donation to Serakunda Hospital, including wheelchairs, sanitary napkins, adult diapers, etc. The woman councillor just represented us. So with every opportunity we have, with all the partners we can get, we will continue to support the health of the community. Yeah, he would say in every council meeting, he does advocate for this. Unfortunately, this is not true for all buildings in KMC. It is going to be true for new buildings that we build. And I think this is why we brought your representative on board. Because when I met the people of the differently able, persons with disabilities at the Serakunda West Stadium in 2017, when I was campaigning for my first mandate, they asked me, Mayor, we do struggle a lot, lack of basic infrastructure for the people who are differently able, from getting taxis to getting on buses. It was a very emotional meeting. And I said, look, I don't have all the solutions right now. What I can promise, I can get to a representative on council. And I think since then, Momodu has been advocating that in every new building we create, including the public library we are building, to ensure there's ramps, toilets for persons of differently able. 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting to build a assembly hall at Charles Zhao School. And he did ask, is there a toilet for the differently able? And because of that question, is one of the reasons we postponed the meeting for our planning department to create that facility. So I think that's the benefit of having him there. So I think this is Madam Bai, right? Yes. This is a standard issue we have at KMC. As I said, Gambia has a problem of unemployment. Most people are self-employed, and they would like to go where it's easiest to make an income. And unfortunately, most times, the areas they do choose are areas that are not for selling. And these are pedestrian walkways, these are feeder roads, these are in front of people's compounds. So it is a big challenge, especially around market areas. And for the residents of Bartes, for example, London Corner, we have a big push and pull. Vendors want to leave markets and sell on streets. And of course, residences don't want people to sell in front of their houses. Shops don't want people to sell in their businesses. So it's a matter of what is the law and what is best for the greater good. Because one problem we do face in Serakunda, for example, one vendor will leave the market and go sell on the street. Before you know it, the market is empty. Because every other vendor will say, I am paying taxes, I am paying rent, I am sitting inside the market waiting for customers. Why should another person leave the premises of the market and go capture the customers on the street? Meaning the customers never enter the market. So it's a very complex problem. It is not that the mayor will sit and say, oh, go remove this lady or go clear that street. These are laws of the land. And these are bylaws of the council. It is not that the mayor is instructing police to say, do this, do that. No. We are politicians. I want to make everybody happy. I want everybody to vote for me. And this is why we don't even interfere in such activities. We allow the police to operate based on the laws and the policy of the council. But what is true is we do have a street vendor problem. We have a problem where every Gambian feels that they need to sell on the street to make ends meet. But this creates a ripple effect of problems. One, they will block pedestrian routes. Two, they will prevent customers from entering shops of tax-paying vendors. And three, of course, they create a lot of litter. Pay attention to every area that is littered and left littered overnight. It is because of street vendors. Look at the gutters, for example. It is even creating flooding because every street vendor by a gutter would use the gutter as their waste bin. And when the rainy season comes, what happens? Flooding occurs. So this is an issue we have all over the municipality. So ask that madam and say it's not mayor who's pushed you off the street. It is actually just standard police operations. Sometimes we even get calls from our own relatives. From our own relatives, we got calls and say, your police officer has did this to me, has did that to me. And I say, well, I cannot intervene. That's the job of the police. Because once I intervene, it means that everybody can do it. And I am breaking the law as mayor. So it is not a decision we make. We are policy makers. We make rules for the greater good and allow for those rules to work. So basically, this is my answer for that. Those spaces. The reason for that plan is actually because of the question that came before yours about the street vendor problem. So when our police ask street vendors to get off the street and go into the market, a standard complaint we have is there's no space in the market. There's not enough shops in the market. So over the years, we try to develop a carrot and stick approach, meaning we will just not tell people don't sell on the street, but we will try to provide them a safe shop that is with the facilities, meaning public toilets, etc., electricity, where they can be. So we created a company called Canifing Municipal Markets with a plan to create 7 markets over 4 years at a tune of 240 million. So these markets will be placed in diverse areas, in strategic areas around the municipality to ensure that they can accommodate all these vendors. And of course, Serakunda's market is planned to be at Mbari Padembo, which should have 93 shops and will cost around $40 million. I don't think that's going to change the waste dynamic of the municipality. Actually, I think it will help us store and collect waste in a more responsible fashion. Because shopkeepers tend to store their waste better than somebody selling on the street. We will have less waste to collect from the ground and more waste to collect in containers. So I think actually it will help the waste management of the municipality rather than not help it. That's my answer to that. 2 days ago at some interview, it is true, all the garages that are in KMC are either at the street junctions or in front of houses or in random areas. Over the years, there has not been the creation of garages around the municipality, meaning well-structured garages with proper infrastructure. The problem is we have an issue with urban planning. Let me say, in municipalities around the world, municipalities or local government authorities are allowed to do urban planning, meaning land use is decided at the local council, zoning is decided at the local councils, even with billboards, where you can have billboards, where you cannot have them, what standard of billboards you should have, etc. But in the Gambia, councils are not responsible or are not allowed to manage the land resources within their region. And this creates the problem. Because the reason councils are created in the first place is to create that closeness to the local community, meaning your desires, your thoughts, your ideas, struggles you go through, we are in a position to create solutions. And part of creating those solutions is the ability to do land management. So when you go to, for example, Madison City Council in the United States, the mayor told me they do land planning up to 30 years in consultation with the community, where a church can be, where a mosque can be, where certain businesses can be, the heights of buildings, etc. And councils control this through permits and licenses. But in the Gambia, no council has authority to allocate land or to create land planning or urban planning. As we speak, KMC has 40-something properties, meaning markets, community centers, football parks, etc. Can you believe 3 years ago, we asked for the leases of these properties, just so we can safeguard the wealth of the municipality and the people. And to date, we have not received a single lease. So even the office I sit in, even the building we are in, we don't have a lease for it. And this is what we talk about as far as devolution of power is concerned. Today, if I cannot even get a lease for the very building I sit in, or for the very market I own, or the football field I own, how can I create car parks? How can I create new resources for people? How can I create new services that depend on land resources? It's not possible. Also, when the OIC project started, and when we came into office in 2018, we had a consultation meeting about roads they intended to build within the municipality. One of the major problems that came up was car sellers and mechanics on the areas of roads they were supposed to expand. And we came up with a plan. Through a task force we developed, the Ministry of Infrastructure was there, Works and Transport was there, the Ministry of Lands was there, OIC Secretariat was there, the Secretary General's office from the State House was there. We identified 3 areas we thought would make perfect garages. One was in Abuko, one was in Kamalo. These are border areas to KMC, and one was central in Kotu. However, this plan was killed at some point by the Ministry of Lands and Local Government, i.e. they had other plans for those lands. So without the control at the local government authority, because we are directly answerable to the people, it would be very difficult for us to create services or manage resources that could plow back benefits to the people. So we do want to create garages. We believe there's termination points in the municipality. Like I said, when you're leaving our municipality going to Banjul or coming through our municipality from Banjul, that's the Kamalo area, and of course Abuko. And we wanted a central one that where cars can park for transit. But without control over our own land resources, this is not possible. And this is why every time we are crying that we want devolution of power. We want the Constitution to be amended, or the Local Government Act, sorry, not the Constitution, the Local Government Act to be amended to give more power to councils to manage their affairs and the resources within their borders. Thank you. And we heard these complaints, and actually it's at the committee level right now to look at the prices again. I think when you go to Serakunda, being a more cosmopolitan area, more a busy area, is cheaper than Latrikunda Savage. So I can assure you, as we speak, is at the committee level being looked at. I was just there 2 days ago at the market itself, and we did hear these complaints. The youth councillor is here, Kemo Bojang. One of the things he's trying to advocate for is that when we do develop these new structures, we create affirmative action, meaning there's a quota that we will allocate to youths in business. So I think that would be an initiative that he would champion once these markets are completed. Zambia has a lot of talented youths with natural skill. However, they don't have the facilities that will enable them to nurture and hone those skills to perfection. And this is why we do very well in tournaments, but when we go at the very competitive level, somehow we cannot pull it off. Because at that level, that is where the training comes in. That is where finishing, that is where the details come in. And you need these facilities to be able to hone your skills to the very highest of levels. So as a council, of course, we are not the Ministry of Sports, but we have a responsibility when it comes, of course, to sports within our region. So we are doing our part. There are parks that the council owns, but does not operate. And this is the zones. So Serakunda East, Serakunda West, Bakau, Serakunda Central, Manjai. These are the 5 zones in KMC. But long time ago, the council management of these zones was handed to local sporting committees that are elected by the teams of that zone. So the council does not have much say as far as the management of sports. However, we have a say in terms of facilities. So recently what we've been trying to do, we've been looking at the facilities these zones own and to see how we can bring development there. Of course, we don't have the money to say we can build mini stadiums. So we are leveraging on partnerships. So as you've rightly said, we have leveraged on partnership with AfriCell for the development of the traffic light park. We have leveraged partnership with AfriCell for the development, of course, of the Serakunda West Park. Now that park agreement is a 3-part agreement. AfriCell on one part, the local sporting committee, SWESDO, then of course the council. This 3-part agreement has a lifetime of 3 years. Now, the phases in which they will develop it depends on talks when the Suezdo has their sporting programs and when AfriCell can come in with their budget. As we speak, what I know is they have costed the football field. It's not a turf, but it's grass at $50,000. It's going to be $100 million a facility. The agreement is signed. Based on our agreement, they have 3 years to build it because it's almost a 20-year agreement. However, for those who are in doubt as to what is the benefit for AfriCell, this model I borrowed from North America, the US per se. What they do is you take a sporting facility, you give the branding rights to a corporate body for a certain period. They pay you money annually to have their name on your stadium. But you run the stadium, you own the stadium. So we just pretty much looked at what we have in Gambia and tried to amend it accordingly. We cannot give them branding rights on an annual basis because we do not have the cash to bring development. So what we said is, pay us upfront via a state-of-the-art facility. Keep your name on that facility. However, that's where you stop. The Suezdo will continue to run the sporting activities and generate income. KMC would like to have shops around this facility where we also get an income to upkeep and maintain the facility. So this is a 3-part agreement. AfriCell has branding rights. Suezdo has a brand new facility, continues their sport. KMC has shops they can collect rent from to make sure there's sustainability. And out of the rents we are collecting, we have said we want to plow back 40% of that income to Suezdo for the support of grassroots football. So in the zone of Serekunda West, we no longer want a team to have to pay the Nawetan fee. We want Suezdo to provide them with the kits, the tools, the bips, the jerseys for their yearly Nawetan. So that is the 3-part agreement. Now, when it's to start, what they agreed was before the next Nawetan, but it's on a phase-by-phase basis because they don't want the development of the park to affect the scheduled sports that will be happening in that park. But that responsibility is on AfriCell's desk because they have to take out the financing. Now, the other 7 parks, I know a lot of people are saying, hey, Mayor, minge jehal heri si dekabi, minge de foundation stone, election minge nyo. No, what people fail to understand is, I am a mayor still. I still am in my first term. Just because I am going for election doesn't mean I have to stop working. I am still on people's time. The projects we are doing have phases. We laid a foundation stone for the library. That was phase 1. Nobody said we are doing it for politics. The library is almost done. We distributed 10,000 household bills. We built and completed the first community radio owned by a council. That was phase 1. We planted 190,000 trees. That is part of phase 1. We have now entered into phase 2, which is the parks. We started Bakau Park, which is almost done. You should visit Bakau opposite the craft market. Talinding South, almost done. You should visit there, the Children's Center. And the 4 parks we have started will start all within the month of April. I promise you, before elections, you will see big developments in those areas. So we are not working according to an election timeline. We are working according to our mandate and our responsibility to the people. So I assure you, as far as the council is concerned, we are doing everything within our power to leverage on partnerships, to leverage on your taxpayers' money, to leverage on international grants to bring you facilities that will improve sports within our region. Thank you. Within the KM, in a project called the KMRNP, Kanifing Municipal Road Network Project. As you know, when we came, our number 1 priority, top of our table was waste management. We are doing pretty well there. We think we are almost completed solving the issue. Not 100%, but we are managing it. Now we want to shift gears to the second highest priority, which is now the top priority of the people of KM, which is the road network. People, of course, want to have the ability to traverse KM smoothly. And they want to also be able to bypass traffic without having to go through humps. And of course, the erosion that is going on within many neighborhoods is unbearable. So we have committed about 307 million over the next 4 years, based on our resources, based on direct taxes, to develop 23 kilometers worth of roads. Now, development of these roads, to be honest, we haven't thought about the community-led version, which is youth-led or whatnot. We are talking about infrastructure here that should serve for the next 20 years. But outside that project, what the youth councillor has been doing is he's been trying to engage youths in communities to see how we can create novel infrastructure or innovative methods to create roads that youths can create through companies they can create. And I think there's a solution that one has proposed, which is using used tires and filling them with concrete to be able to create that base. What we now have also, we have seen youths that have come together and form associations. So in Talinding, there's Under Development Talinding. And Alasan Sar, Funding Baji, these are youths that have come together and said, look, we want to create our own concrete roads. Council or mayor, can you provide us with the tools and resources? So we have provided with 200 bags of cement, a trip of stone, wall stone, and of course sand to enable them to do that project. We've had a similar association in Ibo Town, run by a youth called Nyasi. It's called Vision Development, Ibo Town. So they have been able to create almost 200 meters of concrete road in Ibo Town, Badala. And you should go and see it, it's amazing. On a weekend, on Sunday, 100 youths would show up and they would develop these roads. We have also donated them with a lot of materials. If you go to Bakau Farokono, the community also is doing a community-led initiative developing those roads, and we have provided them with the tools. If you go to Bakau Kachikali, it's the same. So we are seeing now in KM, youths are leading and trying to fix their problem, and we are there at the back and trying to support them to create these roads. So that's what we are doing as far as community projects are concerned. Office. At the contract committee level, like I said, the chief executive officer is the chairperson. As far as the law is concerned, the finance director should sit on this committee. The planning and development officer should be on this committee. 2 councillors must represent the council in these committees, and 2 experts from the general public. So this is the committee we've set up. But this is for procurements, $500,000 and above, which is the GPPA rules. And they must go for tender, and they must be approved by the procurement authority. At the level where procurements are below 500,000, procurement is under the director of administration. So he must come up with policies to ensure that procurements are done properly. 2 areas we look at, of course, are the quality of materials that are bought and to ensure the prices are competitive, they are the right prices. However, we created once through our accounts committee what we called a verified list of vendors. Because what used to happen in KMC is they used to take a lot of briefcase vendors, what we call briefcase vendors, meaning you don't have a shop, you don't have a supermarket, or you're not a retailer. All you do is you come with your briefcase to KMC and win contracts and go to people who own this material and jack up the prices to make a profit. And of course, give kickbacks in the process. So we've eliminated all the briefcase vendors. When we procure now, we ensure that you have a shop, which is a brick and mortar establishment, and you are a verified vendor. Recently, we had an issue where we were procuring furniture for our new building. And of course, when you do a public tender, the briefcase vendors show up. But when our contracts committee did their due diligence, they realized that the guy who was pushing to win the contract did not have a shop. All they did was they went to a shop, I don't want to say the name, but they took prices, jacked it up a little higher, and came and provided an invoice to KMC, and we eliminated them from the vendor list. So this is how we try to eliminate corruption at the procurement level. Every day, because my office overlooks Westfield, where people stop to take cars. And actually, in 2020, I saw a physical fight between people trying to compete to enter vans. And almost on a daily basis, there's a quarrel about entering this transport. And it just comes back to the simple economic problem where you have a shortage. Demand outweighs supply. And where you have that problem, of course, government or council should find a solution to ease because it's a public service. Gambia is one of the few countries in the world where there's no public transportation. Gambia Transport Service is not a public transport company. That is a government-owned private transport company, meaning they are for-profit. Gambia Transport Service is a for-profit company owned by Social Security. So Gambia, since the days of the Gambia Public Transport Company, which is GPTC, in the 80s, Gambia has not had a public transport company, which is shocking because one of the responsibilities of government is to provide mobility and to ease the movement of people. Everybody cannot have a car. It's not possible. It's just going to create congestion. So government must provide cheap, affordable, efficient service to allow mass transit. So Gambia government has not done that, like I said, since the 80s. And KMC, based on the struggle we have seen on a daily basis within our municipality, have set up a company called Kanifing Municipal Transport, KMT. And that company was set up about 2 years back. And we are looking at how can we provide sustainable, affordable, efficient service. However, based on our studies, we found that public transport must be subsidized for it to be successful. Because, of course, you cannot charge people more than they pay for taxis. It should be cheaper than taxis. That makes it affordable service or public service. But for it to be affordable, government must provide a subsidy, in our case, KMC. So this is what we are trying to contest with. And hopefully in the foreseeable future, we will be in a position to provide mass public transit that is very affordable and especially affordable for students and people who are above retirement age, like we see in progressive societies. Are interrelated. And in many cases, we cannot even tell where our borders are. So we said we must create a GBA, intermunicipal committee, Greater Banjul Area Intermunicipal Committee, where we can coordinate our activities and create solutions to common problems. However, that committee failed because of politics. When the 2019 division happened politically, we could no longer coordinate as politicians would usually fight. And I think this is one of the failures of immature politics. The reason I say immature is because political differences should not interfere with administrative processes or things that should be technical. But that was the intention. The intention was for even campuses or anything within this GBA, we could coordinate and bring solutions to a lot of the problems. So we hope as our politics evolves, we can sort of separate our institutional processes and our administrative processes from political shocks. Councillor. The community is the elected mayor. These are the people recognized by law who are supposed to manage the affairs of the community. So basically what has been happening in the parks is like you said. That's why even with Serakunda West, we conditioned them. We told them the only way we can get to development in this park is if you agree as a committee to hand the management of the facility to KMC. You can manage the sports, we will manage the facility. They agreed. That's why we found that deal for them. Because nobody will invest in a park where a committee will sit and be running it as they like. Because if I invest my money, that committee starts mismanaging the facility. Remember, and they have a lifetime. They are voted every 4 years. If they leave, another radical committee comes, my investment is a risk. So people will only agree to enter partnership with the council, which is a legally mandated authority to run that facility. So what we are saying, we are trying to use the Serakunda West development as a pilot project. If it works, and when it works, and I believe it will work, we will then take back each park one by one and bring development. So this is the strategy we want to use. But like you rightly said, there's a lot of money being made by these parks that are under-declared. So what we will also look at is to, like you suggested, try to have more involvement, which is the audit. But to our surprise, like you said, the same teams that are grumbling about the committees if you try to change those committees, are the same teams that will fight you. So it is quite a complex relationship. We don't want to take anybody's power. We don't want to exploit anybody. We just want grassroots football to work. We just want the parks to bring maximum benefits to the youths. But like you rightly said, if a committee cannot do that, definitely the council has to intervene at some point to make sure those facilities are made available. But remember, it is very politically sensitive, and one can lose a lot of political capital because the very people you might be trying to help can be the very people fighting you. We've seen it in Bakau, where they burned the field. Did you hear about that story? When there was trying to bring some development there, and the youth burned the field. We've seen Father Gov in Manjai Park, where there was a multi-million-dollar facility there, AstroTurf, which is quite modern facility, but because of this fighting about control and money, go there now. It's destroyed. The AstroTurf is destroyed. So Serakunda West is a model. We think where the teams will win, the committee will win, the investor will win, the council will win. When it works, we will try to roll it across the municipality. I think the government is rolling out a national health insurance plan. I'm not sure if that covers local treatment and evacuation, but what you're talking about is evacuation, I believe. I think most of these local plans don't cover evacuation. You literally need international insurance coverage, which costs a lot of money. Medical insurance is not cheap anywhere in the world. Medical treatment is not cheap anywhere in the world. So I think this is why the government wants to create a national health insurance policy and a plan that everybody pays in and benefits from. It's been very slow. We heard that it was being rolled out, but there's no news yet. I think there's the digital birth registration, and that's what it's about. But what you're talking about, a council cannot do. We simply don't have the resources. It costs a lot of money. I do receive a lot of letters from the community. Many people with health problems who want support of evacuation. Unfortunately, we have to turn them down. It's just not a program the council can afford or has in-house. But we hope under the Ministry of Health that the national health insurance policy comes in play and at least some of these issues can be resolved.
Thank you very much. And at that end,
I think we have once assisted Gambia College, am I correct? Director of Service. I think we have once assisted you in BINS, huh? Yeah, I think we have once assisted you. I mean, just because your campus is physically in Birkama Area Council doesn't mean people from KMC are not attending the college. I'm sure a large population of your students are actually KM residents. So of course we are obligated to support you where we can. It can be tricky though when it comes to the physical campus, given that it's physically not in our jurisdiction. But I think when you have programs, being that you are a national body, if you have programs, I think we can support programs, if I am not wrong, Director of Administration. Maybe what we cannot support is anything that deals with the physical campus, because that is outside our jurisdiction. But it's a tricky line that we can explore. But I do believe we've supported an initiative you've had before. So pay a courtesy call, and then we can explore how we can help that. The jurisdiction is a matter of legality. So when you look at the council, we are guided by two acts mainly. There's the Local Government Act, and there's the Finance and Audit Act. In the Finance and Audit Act, it says where tax is generated, the revenues of those taxes should not be used in other regions where the tax is not generated. So local councils are different from national government. National governments, of course, the taxes are national and their jurisdiction is all over the country. For us, remember, we have a constituent that pays us taxes to solve their local problems. So it is not allowed for us to take their taxes and solve another jurisdiction's problem. But like I said, with the university it's tricky, because though your campus is situated in another region, you have students, a lot of them from KM, attending your university. So So that is the gray, what they call the gray area of the law. Whereas even people paying taxes in KMC are attending your school because it's a national institution. It just happens to be you have a campus in a different region. So that we have to sit, you have to visit. We have to discuss with our administration, look at our policies, also seek legal advice. What is possible is that we can create opportunities to support your school through our networks and our partners to bring you borehole, for example, and other materials you may need. That we can do through leveraging partnerships we have. So it's not that we are abandoning you. We're just saying we have legal bottlenecks we have to review before we can spend taxpayers' money in your campus. That's it.
Here tonight, University of the Gambia, MDI, Stratford, Insight Training Center. Ooh, that's my alma mater. Hello, Insight students. Islamic Open University, Gambia College, Smart Professional College, USET, GTTI, Hadigala, American International University, and MAJAC. I don't know if that's Majak or MAJAC. Majak. There you go. Thank you very, very much for being present here tonight. Before we wrap up, since we have all these prestigious schools here, will there be anyone volunteering to do the closing remarks? Any students?